In today's episode of Carlie's Couch, we talk about self-soothing. Soothing? Now that you're locked in, we talk about
self-soothing,
healthy ways to do it, and why it's important.
Hello.
Clearly, I got to practice saying this.
Self-soothing.
Say it fast. Say it 3 times. Self-soothing. I sound like radio. Okay.
We're leaving that in there.
Yeah, I'm not cutting this out. Whatever. Self-soothing. I sound like fucking Daffy Duck. Suffering succotash.
Got the Looney Tunes from the podcast today.
Right. Cut my check. Anyway, how are you guys doing? How are you doing, Carlie? Let's start there.
I'm doing wonderful.
That's good.
Very peaceful and grounded. It's been hot in LA.
Yeah,
major titty sweat everywhere. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm kind of getting back to it. Was down and out for a minute, but I'm back. We've had hurricanes, earthquakes. On the east side and Midwest, they're having tornadoes. There's other hurricanes coming. So clearly, we need to care about the environment. But alas, I don't have kids, so whatever. If it ends with me, whatever.
Then it ends here. But that actually goes right along with our questions from the couch for this past week.
Yeah, true. So this last week we asked, what invention do you think has caused the most harm to humanity? And I think we got some pretty good answers. There's some things I don't even really think about until you guys say it. And then I'm like, ooh, yeah, that is kind of good. And then there's always some stupid stuff too. But what are some of the answers that we got here?
Okay, so the first one, capitalism. And in that same vein, the idea that career comes before family.
Okay. I don't know if I care about... I don't know if it matters so much things coming before... But I would agree that capitalism kind of does suck. It's so funny, this morning at 5 a.m. I rolled over and woke up crazy. And then, of course, the first thing I did, I started scrolling. And I was watching this whole TikTok about capitalism and racism. Mm-hmm. And it was 4 minutes long. And I was really watching yeah, that is real. This is true. And then I was like, it's 5 a.m. Why am I watching videos about capitalism? And how is this a good way to start your day? But yeah, it was basically about how racism was created to help capitalism stay intact because poor white people will never basically vote against the wealthy white people.
And they just got to be better than somebody.
Yeah, basically. So in that same thing, Nanero said global capitalism via the transatlantic slave trade. So even more nuance there, which absolutely slavery is terrible. And that kind of goes into what we were talking about with capitalism and the idea of free labor and slave labor. That's crazy.
Yep. And then money. Because if you think about what spurs capitalism and the idea of needing things and exploitation, it kind of starts with currency.
Yeah.
And so money.
Lately, I often think about, why do we have money? We really have everything we need to live here, and everybody can live here, and everybody can eat, and everybody would be fine. Not even on a socialist way. Everybody could literally be, surviving and perfectly, well off, but... the way we're set up, we're making it cost money to live in a free earth,
which is crazy.
Yeah, I know animals be looking at us whatever.
Idiots.
Yeah, so I think there might be an argument for money. There might be an argument there. A few other ones, people said the news. Do not agree because somebody needs to know what's going on. But I get where you're probably going with the sensationalism of it and all that stuff.
But the most harm to humanity?
Nah, not the most harm. Not the most harm. I've also seen the internet, social media, and I would say those can do a lot of good as well. Even with the internet in 2009, that's why so many people were able to get together to protest and riot and, be able to contact each other, etc. So there's a lot of good uses for some of those things that could outweigh. But again, I understand how it also has completely changed our way of life and, now people are starting to bend over and have an extra thumb and not know what's real and not real. And I get that. But worse to humanity, I think it does more good.
I do too, especially internet and access to information. How we all grew up with encyclopedias and shit. Come on, y'all. I feel the speed with which we can
come on, y'all.
verify things and be able to check.
Carlie said, y'all need to get your verification game up. Stop falling for that OD stuff.
Man, another one A couple other ones that we got are use of fossil fuels and then alcohol and cigarettes.
I had a few people say alcohol, which I don't know about most harmful, but it is pretty bad. Alcohol is really bad, actually.
It is. And
it's actually
also,
crazy that alcohol exists legally.
Yeah. And as y'all know, I'm a staunch advocate against cigarettes, but the most harm to humanity, can't agree, big dog. Yeah,
not to humanity at all. Not cigarettes, because at least alcohol, you're also more a danger to people, maybe. Somebody said processed food, which is very terrible.
Very terrible.
That actually probably has
ties to capitalism.
Shortened our exactly.
It all ties
that
back.
has very much shortened our lifespans, but yeah, that ties back to capitalism, which ties back to money. So far we're kind of there. Had a lot of people say guns, the blicky, atomic bombs, so weapons, which those also kind of tie back to capitalism and money, as usual again. And then I had a few people, and this is one I like the best, say religion. And I think religion's one of the most harmful inventions just because it not only gives people something to think, but like it takes away them thinking about other things. And just because of the way it's used, it's really used as a tool of power. But then me and Carlie were talking earlier, and she's like, yeah, but that also can go back to money and capitalism. So maybe if capitalism is an invention, you think somebody just sat around? Yeah, actually they probably did. Yeah.
Yes.
They did sit around and say, how can we have power?
Absolutely. And then even with religion, like, and the things that it's tied to, if you look at people who are, pro-life, like back in the day, the Republican Party was actually for that. They have video of Reagan being like, yeah, it's cool, women's bodies, like, don't mess with them. Until the Republicans could no longer, and the church could no longer lobby for segregation, then they had to pick a polarizing cause. Hello, abortion, women's bodies. So it's all tied to these systems of power.
Yeah, and it's so funny when you like really look into things, how much people really just like switch up just for that bottom line. And it literally has nothing to do with them caring about you. And on both sides, like it literally has nothing to do with them caring about you.
They do not care.
Yeah, they don't care. But that's the backlines behind this stuff is very interesting. But thanks to y'all for giving us such good ideas. I think this helps me to like brainstorm and think about life when we answer these questions.
And it just creates conversation points and helps us all learn and kind of grow and causes us to kind of look at our own values and thoughts about things, which I always appreciate when Lexi puts me on the spot about stuff or when we, ask each other questions because it's like, wait, why do I think like that? So.
Yeah. It's good to go back and forth about things sometimes or just think about why you think that. Because I wasn't thinking about money really being at the bottom line of all this stuff either, but it is.
I'm about to say that was the first thing I thought of. I ain't gonna hold you. That's the one I was like, yes, that like guns, yes, terrible. And also, I still think that the reason why that is because of money. So it's like
very valid, very valid.
But before I continue on this rant, let me get to the topic at hand, which is self-soothing. I teach and do corporate training, so I work with educators, I work with in actual schools and facilities and with corporations and leadership teams and teach mindfulness and stress resiliency and self-care and all the things in between. And something that I teach often are in my stress resiliency classes is about self-soothing. And I actually ended up teaching it for a group of my life learners. And one of the staff kind of reached out to me afterwards and was like, yo, that was so helpful. And it was funny because it was like they were there, but I didn't know if they were really paying attention. It was more for the, the students or the learners. And it made me think like, wow, if it was so beneficial to one of my teachers and she, they're not the only one. There have been other people who've said that too. Like it might be a cool episode topic to actually delve deep into self-soothing.
Yeah, because also when Carlie was talking to me about her class and how the teachers were interested in it, I agreed because I thought, well, self-soothing is something that I don't think about, but once you bring it up, it's like, oh yeah, like kind of like when we just, like I'll rub my thigh or like, when we watch these videos back, I'll notice and you're like doing something or.
I sway.
Yeah, we got that little, I got the little spectrum rock a little bit. Or like I'll, biting the inside of your cheek and stuff like that. And you start thinking about it and it's like, oh, so wait a minute, I do a lot of things. Is that self-soothing? And so I think it's just something that we don't really take a moment to really identify. So we thought it would be interesting to like go over like what are some things that you might be doing. You might not think about it, but you might already be doing these things to self-soothe. And are those healthy ways to self-soothe? Because if not, Carlie can give us basically the same lesson and show us some different ways to do so. So I think that, like, one of the things I might start doing is, like, rub my thigh. Actually, I noticed Carlie does this a lot because while she's talking on the podcast, I noticed you will rub your thigh a lot. And so when you're doing that, I think it's almost like, it's kind of like you're patting yourself on the back, especially if I'm the one talking and I'm doing it. It's almost like you're, like, I don't know, like easing yourself, calming yourself, being like, okay, it's okay, you're talking, whatever. I think a lot of times I notice I do certain things when I'm, like, nervous or kind of a little anxious, and not, like, overly nervous or anxious, but, like, let's say if you're about to speak or, you know, something like that. Like, I was telling Carlie, like, I fake chew gum, like, when people are talking to me, and I'll be like this, and they'll be like, dang, you chewing the hell out that gum. And in my mind, I'm like, damn, I don't even got nothing in my mouth for real. But, like, it's like you just need to be doing something because it calms me a little bit in that moment. But I think it's, like, anxiety, calming. That's mostly what I think about for me. What other reasons would people self-soothe?
Self-soothe. Anxiety is a big one. So when you're nervous, like, you'll know people kind of rub their hands sometimes before they talk. You'll notice like little nervous ticks. Anger, like rage or frustration, like you might notice yourself having patterns of doing something there. I think mine, like similar to what you said, is just kind of like a calming. And I don't know if that's because of anxiety or other things, but it happens when you feel overwhelmed, when you're stressed, when you're bored and you're sensory seeking, and so you do things then.
I do that too.
But a lot of times it's habits that we developed when we were younger to help us regulate our emotions.
So actually, I'm like really good now, but like in the past couple of years, one of my biggest things in like therapy was identifying how I feel and like letting myself feel emotions and recognizing what the emotions are. And so that actually probably is a bigger reason why most of my things that I do, which we'll get into, it's because like I don't know what else to say or do, and so I just start doing those things. So like we would notice like when I'm having certain conversations or something, like I'll just start moving a lot or like doing certain things, and then I started recognizing that as like a sign of like, all right, I'm feeling something. Like as soon as instead of getting sad or feeling something, it's like my body tries to distract myself from feeling emotion. And so I started using it as a key to be like, oh no, like what am I trying to run away from right now? Like when I'm doing all this extra stuff. So it is cool to like recognize that you're doing it, because then you can kind of like, you know, just learn more about yourself too.
Yeah, and it's important. Like, and nothing wrong with some of these, but there like might be some that might not be as healthy as other ones. But we're going to go through a list of things. I want you to think about yourself and how you deal with situations, whether it be like nervous, like you're about to do a presentation, about to have a difficult conversation. If someone just pissed you off, like how are you handling that? Like pacing, you know what I'm saying? Like think about like all these emotions in your life, or maybe sometimes you can't even identify the emotion, but notice like how you subconsciously try to soothe yourself.
So we're going to list out some God dang it, some self-soothing techniques.
There we go.
and count on your fingers. I can't even count. Count on your fingers like how many you have of these things. These are not the most healthy ways, but these are things that you might not notice. You might just do it and not notice it. Because when Carlie was saying this, I was like, ooh. But I'm gonna let you start, Carlie.
Okay. So, grinding your teeth or clenching your jaw, sucking your thumb, biting your nails, fingernail biting, cuticle picking, sucking on clothing or other objects, rocking, knuckle cracking, pulling hair, eyebrows, or eyelashes.
Oh, this me. Look, I was all in the list. Hair twirling. A lot of them be doing that all the time. That's so annoying. Picking your nose or skin, head banging, biting the ends of pencils or other objects, masturbation, alcohol or drugs, like just going to the J or the bottle, self-harm in whatever way. It might be cutting or hurting yourself in some way. And then food, emotional eating, when you just habitually are going to like grab food and you're not really thinking about it. So that's 17 things. How many
you got on this list?
I guess I got to do them as I count them. So I clench my jaw and like eat the inside of my mouth a lot. And I often have to like unclench. I've never been a thumb sucker. I did bite my nails. I'll fingernail bite. I'll cuticle pick. I already talked about I eat like scabs and stuff. I definitely rock. I crack my knuckles. I crack my back. I crack everything. I pull my eyebrows. I never thought about that, but I pull out my eyebrows. I pick at skin. I do not bang my head. I bite on the ends of pens and stuff sometimes. I wouldn't say masturbation like that. You might do that because you're bored, but I wouldn't say like for this self-soothing. I definitely, sometimes I'll just be like, oh, I want to go smoke, or, I want to pour a drink. And like, I know I don't really need to. I used to be a self-harmer, so I know that in my history growing up, like, that's one of the first things I would go to is like, I couldn't feel in my mind, so I had to feel literally.
Physically.
And I've noticed lately now, I do food now. Like, I'll notice like the sugar or salt cravings come. So like a lot of these I actually do.
I was about to say, yeah, I'm at like 7 or 8 of these. But the one that I noticed the most that I never knew I was doing
13
was grinding my teeth. So I didn't know that at night I would grind my teeth out. And it sounds silly, but like I would wake up in the morning and like my jaw, but I just thought my jaw was tense. But then it wasn't until college when I had a partner, he would stay over, he'd be like, bro, you grind your teeth crazy. And I'm like, really? And I didn't know. And so I had to get a mouth guard because like that's how I was dealing with my stress, right? So I didn't know that I was so stressed in my waking life, or I wasn't handling it enough so that at night in my body, like I would just be grinding. And it's funny because after, so many years of therapy and self-healing and working on that stuff, like I don't grind my teeth anymore.
That's good.
And it's cool to be like, hey, that's like a huge progression for me.
Yeah, I don't self-harm, and I don't like bite my nails as much, but like I didn't even think about like pulling on your eyebrows. I just always try to like just pull out the ones that are just coming out though. I don't know. I just like doing stuff sometimes.
Yeah, and I think
I do the healthy ones too. I do some of the healthy stuff like just rubbing or like, hugging and stuff like that. Like I think I do those too.
I'm about to say I definitely like will hug or like grab my arm or something to make myself feel more comfortable or like held. Like if I'm like sad or needs to go through something, like I kind of self-hold and do things like that. So I want to know, which ones do y'all do, or did you even notice that you were doing it like consciously until, you kind of heard this list?
Yeah, that's one thing is like I didn't think about it until I heard the list. But before you go into some of these, a couple of other self-soothing techniques to try, remind us again, like, so why is self-soothing good? Like this is something that we should do, or it's just like something we do, so you might as well do a healthy version?
So it's just something that we do, and so the technical definition of self-soothing like involves it being a repetitive, like habitual thing that we do most of the time, learned when you're younger. So by the time we get older, so by the time you get older, it's probably very subconscious and just a first reaction. But I would say to challenge yourself in ways like when you notice you're doing that, or like you said, I love your example of like distracting yourself from like an emotion or a difficult conversation. Lean in when you notice that you're trying to like get out of it. Like figure out what's going on, why you're trying to avoid an emotion or keep yourself from feeling, or, if you are self-harming or doing, like emotional eating, doing one of the more obviously harmful ones, to start to try to build healthier practices. Because I would argue now, one of my self-soothing habits is exercise. And that was probably in college. I remember I was so sad. I was crying all night, so sad I got up and ran till I couldn't cry no more.
Yeah, you're wilding.
And I was like, oh, okay. So, like, I think you can build, like, healthier habits. But it's just, like, self-awareness. It's not me. But it's just about building healthier habits. And whenever you do feel overwhelmed with emotion, whenever you are really anxious and about to have a very important conversation that you want to be present for, you can do these self-soothing techniques to help regulate your nervous system so that you can be fully present for the conversation or for the moment or for whatever. And if you feel like you need a little bit more about learning about your nervous system or how to regulate that, we talked about it in episode 234, like different ways to regulate it or notice like when it's out of regulation.
So a lot of these behaviors can also be like avoidance tactics. So for me specifically, that's what I recognized they were. It's like mostly it could be a distraction from feeling. It could be a distraction from connecting. If somebody's talking to you, right? Like, I literally do this thing. It's terrible when, like, people start talking to me and, like, I will literally start walking backwards and, like, walk away as I'm talking. Not that that's necessarily self-soothing, but, like, a lot of it is, like, oh, let me pour a drink. Let me do something. Like, you're really kind of avoiding things. So also consider that when you're at least doing the healthier versions of these, it's kind of like bringing you back in instead of like trying to take you out. So even with like the emotional eating, for example, like I know at least like, okay, if I keep some grapes or something, you know what I mean? Like even if I'm like, I want to eat something, like yesterday I was like, I'm getting some Chick-fil-A and I was like, damn, I kind of want a milkshake, but I ate some grapes first and then I was like, oh, I don't need to get the milkshake. So like you can still at least make healthier choices. So I'm going to let Carlie talk about most through these self-soothing techniques because she's the guru here and she teaches this. But can I talk about the first one? Because I can speak a little bit to breath work and then add more onto it if you think it needs more. But breath work is a good self-soothing technique that I really find myself using actually a lot. Just because if I'm like starting to feel anxious or something, I can literally just... Like, you could literally just take, like, a deep breath. Like, you don't even have to be on any extra, like, 1, 2, 3. You could do all the extra stuff, too. But, like, literally just stopping to take a few deep breaths, like, literally, like, calms you down immediately. And that's one of the ones I know we've talked about breath work before, and you may have heard of stuff like that. So just to even just stop and take a few deep breaths can really make a big difference.
And for all you doubtful Debbies out there, there's so much scientific resource about how breathing differently can change your emotions, can regulate your nervous system, can actually help your body like strengthen your immune system and fight diseases. There's so much scientific research. But what I will do is I'll share, because I have some resources about different types of breath, like box breath and double the inhale over your exhales and all that stuff, or double the exhales over your inhale, that I'll like link in the show notes so that you can try some if you're not as familiar, or if you do it but you don't really know what to do maybe and you want to try something a little bit more intricate. So breath work is a great self-soothing technique to try. Another one, so this one's kind of new for me, it's called tapping, and so I'm going to show you all. You want to try it too? Okay, cool.
I know my dad started doing tapping, so I'll be seeing him do it all the time now.
Okay, so I kind of just like to shake before I do it out, and you'll take like 2 fingers, and that's what you're going to tap with. And so let's start at our forehead, so your third eye, and just lightly tap. You're not like punching yourself in the face, it's lightly tapping. These are acupressure points, and you can do like 5 to 10, or you can stay here for 30 seconds, and then you'll switch, and then go right on the inside of your eyebrow, and just do a few taps there. And then go right on the outside of your eye. And then go right under your eye. Beautiful. Right under your nose, above your lips. Right under your lips, right above your chin. And then right at your like collarbone out to the side. And then you're going to reach under your arm and tap. Do a couple. I'm real sweaty, sorry guys. And then you're going to reach on the outside of your other hand and then do taps. And then just
that's the one I see the most.
Yep. And then so if you want to do a quick one, this is a good one just to tap on the outside of your hands. But again, it's inside of the eyebrow, and you can also Google these, outside of your eye.
I see this is like in a lot of Eastern. I've seen some books on it. I can't think of the main book like that my dad would read or that he has about it. But what are you doing when you're tapping?
You're hitting acupressure points, and so acupuncture is like
so
thousands
it's important
of years old
to do
specific
things.
Points. But if you just want to do one and you're like, I ain't gonna remember
but
all
even
that shit, just do
even
this.
just like doing something probably would be like
doing something. Yep, and I forgot to get under this arm. But yeah, these are acupressure points, and it's actually an EFT or emotional freedom technique, and that helps lower your cortisol levels in your body and helps regulate other stress indicators like your heart, your breathing, and body temperature. But these are acupressure points that you're doing.
It sounds like kind of similar to like with the breathing, you're like telling yourself like come down to this pace, like and remind yourself like it's fine. Like if I got time to sit here and do this, like you're okay.
Yeah, and if you're like, then you can come out of your fight or flight, because obviously you're not about to die if you're taking your time to just tap very slowly on your body. So tapping, there's that. So try that. Let us know how that goes.
And there's a lot of stuff about that though. So like it seems like it's like, oh, okay, but like I think maybe if you try it like or look into it, it may be really useful for you if you're a mover person. Yeah,
because I'm definitely a mover. So try tapping. Like I said, if you just want one, hit the one on the outside of your hands just a few times. One that I really like is a self-hug. So you can give yourself a nice little self-hug with some rubs if that's comfortable. And then there's 2 ways to do a butterfly tap hug. So you can keep your arms here, or you can link your thumbs and put them on your chest like an actual butterfly, and you'll just tap on your chest. Notice this is that same acupressure point we were just hitting with those fingers. So we were just tapping nice and slow. And it's right on your vagus nerve, which is where your nervous system is and tells your whole entire body to calm down. So again, if this feels stupid or feels weird, maybe you just give yourself the hug and you can tap here nice and slow. Try that one. One that I'm not going to do right now, but that also helps flush your nervous system and get you restarted is like little series of jumps. So if you just jump up and down very quickly, like maybe like 5 to 10 jumps. And if you're like, but Carlie, I have knee issues, I can't jump. You don't have to jump. You can stay on your toes and just do little calf raises very quickly.
You know what I like doing too is a little, like a ha-ha, like a little double kick.
Oh, see, I got to try that one.
I think I got that from my dad though, because I remember as a kid, like we used to walk around and he used to always just be like, like just randomly and be like, okay. But like always just like kicking. But I noticed sometimes I start doing that too.
But now
like,
you do it.
Like sometimes you just gotta like shake your legs out or like shake your arms out.
Absolutely. Shaking
I don't know
is
if that's
another
really
big.
self-soothing.
No, shaking
like,
is a self-soothing
sometimes
one.
it's just like, all right.
There is one. There's a shake exercise
like, actually
that I
people
have.
do that before they're about to do something too. Like before you talk.
It actually helps, but there's a...
You're like, whew, let me get ready to do this.
And so I think that that's another good point is there's not really a wrong way to do it. There are some scientifically backed ones and there are just some other ones that feel good or might just be innate. But try those things too. So we talked about jumping. Okay, so the next one is progressive muscle relaxation. And what that means is it's the practice of tensing up your body. So notice if your jaw is tight, if your shoulders are up by your ears, it's a practice of like, you can either do your whole body like so squeezing everything really, really tight and then let it go. Or you can just squeeze your shoulders up by your ears and hold them there and squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Exhale, let them go.
It's kind of like having a stress ball or something too.
Absolutely. Yep. And then something in my research that I learned that I'm going to probably add to my teaching is practicing things with the 5 senses. And so a lot of the behavioral therapy behind these, DBT, is about practicing the 5 senses. So if you are finding yourself overwhelmed with emotion, they mention like the scent. So maybe you carry like a rollerball oil with you, something like holistic sales. Or maybe you have something that you taste. Like maybe if you have keep peppermints or something and you know you're good. They actually said that, I saw a study that if you like sour things, if you like warheads and stuff, but that helps you, that keeps you from being overwhelmed, and it gets you out of your head and into your body because it's so sour. So if you're really struggling with maybe like a breakup or something tough right now, carry some warheads that can help you do that. But think about like what you see, what you feel.
Hurting yourself but not hurting yourself.
Well, it's just like bringing all your sensation here because you can't worry about that if you're feeling attacked or even feeling like you got like a brain freeze from something on the roof of your mouth. It just kind of brings you back down. So to go back through these real quick, breath work is really important. You can try tapping, which is an EFT technique, your self-hug or your butterfly tap combos.
All this movement stuff.
Shaking, jumping, moving around, even turning side to side, getting those twists in. Progressive muscle relaxation, so squeezing something. Maybe you have a stress ball or you just use your body.
You got to do it and let it go, because I just walk around like this.
You don't walk around like Arthur. Let it go.
I just walk around holding it.
And then the last one is thinking about, things that can invigorate your 5 senses and bring you back into your body.
So it's so funny because this whole episode, as we're talking about it, every time I'm not talking, I'm like, dang it. I'm like rubbing my tongue on my teeth. I'm like biting the inside. Like I'm majorly doing things. I'm like tapping my foot. And so I'm like noticing how many things I do. But it's like, why? Because I don't feel nervous right now. I just suck at being still, which also is kind of like an epidemic, like of just, why are you not okay just fucking relaxing?
Maybe that's a different episode.
Yeah.
Because I struggle with it. I'm a big mover,
that's why meditation was so hard at first. I was like, I didn't even realize, like, I do not sit still for more than 10 seconds, like, literally. So, yeah, that's really, like, what I noticed even doing this episode. I'm like, I've done about 30 different things, like, while we're just even sitting here. And they're things that people might not even really see. But, like, if you watch things back, you'd be like, damn, why is she, like... I'm like doing stuff. Yeah, just doing stuff for no reason. It's like practice being still for once. So probably I need to meditate just in general. But I like these self-soothing ideas, and I know that a lot of them like work because I think there's stuff we already do, but maybe instead of these more like harmful ones, it's like, okay, let me bring myself back down with something else.
Yeah, and maybe not even harmful, but like ones that have scientific backing, like be more intentional ones, like making it a more intentional practice, but also remembering that like too much focus or using things in excess like could also be a distraction. So make sure you're not adding on so many self-soothing techniques that you don't feel emotion, because that's not the goal.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so try these. Hit us up this week.
Self-soothe. Is that right? Dang, I had it right.
You did say it.
Yeah, I was like, self-soothe. All right, self-soothe yourselves this week. Goodbye.
Bye,
I'm
y'all.
over it.